As a young couple, I was traveling with my wife around the world. That time it was not so usual, but we had some kind of thirst in our hearts to travel. So one day we were led, I would say, to a village, a remote village in India. And there was a couple who had 2 children. This man had come to know Jesus through just one slip of paper, and his life and the life of his family had changed. And as I was sitting with my wife at that very modest, simple house, a small room actually, 4 square meters, we were 12 people there. We were listening to that singing, how Jesus went to Jordan and he was filled with the Holy Spirit. I suddenly understood that the gospel that was so usual to me is the most important thing. Once we get to know Jesus, we will never be the same. We came back. I did not like to do business. Of course, I did it. Still, I continued for some years. But we ended up into a situation where I stopped my business. I became a full-timer. My wife also left her good job, and we ended up to Indonesia, West Java. From there we traveled around that archipelago, small villages on riversides. There we challenge people that the gospel is the most important thing in the world. After returning back to Finland, I looked this country with the eyes of a missionary, and I saw there were so many internationals and migrants who had moved into this country. And I started praying what to do with them. I was pastoring in a church, and during that time I met an American diplomat couple, and they raised up a question: why don't we have a church, international church in that city, Espoo? And I said, that is a good question. So we met, and that was the beginning of the first international church. I started with my wife and these friends. It has grown ever since, and then we moved to Vantaa. That is a spiritual home for all nations, especially during this era when the nations are moving, shifting and moving around Europe, and people are flooding in. It's not only an economical or social or security issue. If we are real Christians, it's very much of an issue that we see God has sent them for a purpose, and the purpose is that they will hear the gospel. Every Christian can be 100% servant of God. It's not about your position or your serving in church, some kind of professional or volunteer. It's about your awareness that you are called to be His witness. And once we witness from Him, and we have that attitude that we are wholeheartedly serving God, you can be 100% full-time servant of God. The early church grew dynamically just because people were not divided into 2 categories: those who are professionals, church clergy and so on, and then the ordinary people. All those people understood their role, that they are called to be His witnesses. And once you realize that thing, that makes a big change in your life, and your life will become interesting.